The painted dog is amongst Africa's most endangered species. Through efforts to relocate 24 of them from a national park in South Africa to Zimbabwe, an extraordinary story emerged. It demonstrated a major trade in the animals, reaching all the way to China. National parks from South Africa to Tanzania and other countries are beloved by visitors worldwide. They come not only to see these animals in the wild, but many other species as well. However, one animal on the IUCN Red List that's highly endangered and can rarely be seen is the African painted dog. It's also commonly called the wild dog. 100 years ago there were 500,000 of them. Today there are believed to be only 3,000 left in the wild due to loss of habitat and hunting.
African wild dogs were widespread in sub-Saharan Africa, but then were persecuted and nearly extirpated in, I would say, over 50% of the range countries. Because of the requirements they have for large ranges, a single wild dog pack might range to 600 square kilometers. Some of them might range for 2,000 square kilometers. So these are huge areas. And in these wanderings, they encounter people and they tend to enter conflict with people because of the increased fragmentation of habitat in Africa. There are going to be fewer and fewer areas large enough to sustain viable wild dog populations. Therefore, there is a crisis.
The crisis is heightened ever more, with forest fires occurring in national parks. And as the dogs push out past the boundaries, they're perceived as a threat by farmers. Called the devil's dog by colonial farmers, they are in fact highly intelligent and social. Unlike lions, for example, they feed their young first.
The dogs are not only highly endangered, they're also uniquely social. They're one of the few species that looks after their sick and their weak. And also they feed their pups first. They hunt cooperatively, they do everything together. They can't afford to lose individuals from the wild.
Because of the cooperative breeding nature of wild dogs, every member of the pack counts. They look after the pups, they bring food, they guard them, and so on. And therefore, any interference with pack life is potentially affecting the survival of the offspring. Therefore, every individual in a pack does count.
Our story begins with Dr. George Ndemar, a radiologist who through his travels in Africa became dedicated to the dog's survival.
Ja, kijk nou toch naar die honden, dat is toch een fantastisch gezicht. Als mensen denken dat ze gevaarlijk zijn, dan zie je wat er nu gebeurt. Wij staan er middenbij, we hebben geen hek hier tussen, we staan daar gewoon. Ze zijn net als andere wilde dieren bang voor ons.
He tried to save 24 painted dogs from overpopulation and possible euthanasia at Pilanesberg National Park in South Africa. Little did anyone know that this attempt at relocation would lead to the uncovering of a major trade in the animals.
Ik ben door de leiding van het Nationale Park Pilanesberg geïnformeerd over het feit dat ze 2 roedels hadden in het park, waarvan 1 roedel te veel, omdat de predatiedruk op de prooien, dus de jacht op prooien, te groot werd en de prooien daardoor in de hekken gejaagd werden.
He arranged to move the dogs to Painted Dog Conservation in Kwangi National Park, a center for rehabilitating the animals into the wild.